Picture this. Somewhere in the vastness of eternity, God observes humanity's most peculiar obsession. Not love, not knowledge, not even survival, but small pieces of paper and digital numbers that humans call money. What would this divine perspective reveal about our relationship with wealth? From this eternal vantage point, God sees a species that has transformed survival into a game of accumulation. Humans once shared resources within tribes, ensuring everyone had enough to survive harsh winters and abundant harvests alike. But something shifted when they discovered they could represent value with symbols, tokens, and eventually abstract numbers floating in digital space. God watches as humans create systems where a single person can possess resources equivalent to entire nations, while others lack basic necessities. It's as if they've forgotten that the earth they inhabit produces enough for everyone's need, but not for everyone's greed. From this cosmic perspective, the distribution looks almost random, like children hoarding toys while others sit empty-handed. What's most fascinating to God is how humans have convinced themselves that this inequality is natural law. They speak of market forces as if they were physics, immutable and divine. Yet God sees that every economic system is a human creation, malleable and changeable as the societies that build them. The rules aren't written in the stars, they're written by people, often by those who benefit most from the current arrangement. God notices how modern capitalism has transformed human relationships. People no longer just exchange goods and services, they commodify everything. Time becomes money. Relationships become networking opportunities. Even human attention becomes a product to be harvested and sold to advertisers. God sees humans spending more time working to afford things they don't need to impress people they don't like, while missing the simple joys that cost nothing. From this divine perspective, the absurdity becomes clear. Humans have created artificial scarcity in the midst of abundance. They've built systems where food is destroyed to maintain prices while people starve. Houses sit empty while families sleep in the cold. Knowledge is locked behind paywalls while ignorance spreads freely. God sees potential solutions everywhere, blocked not by physics or biology, but by the financial interests of the few. What strikes God most is how humans have forgotten that money is just a tool, a medium of exchange they invented to make trading easier. Instead, it has become their master. They worship at its altar, sacrifice their health and relationships for its pursuit, and measure their worth by their net worth. God sees brilliant minds solving trivial problems for corporations while urgent global challenges go unfunded because they're not profitable. This divine perspective reveals something profound about human nature. They are capable of incredible cooperation and innovation when aligned toward common goals. They've eradicated diseases, connected the globe with communication networks, and even escaped their own planet. Yet their economic systems often pit them against each other in competition for resources that could easily be shared. God sees how this economic anxiety shapes human behavior. People become fearful, protective, and suspicious. They vote for politicians who promise to protect their wealth while ignoring the systemic issues that created scarcity in the first place. They compete with neighbors instead of collaborating with them. They hoard instead of share, not because they're inherently selfish, but because the system rewards scarcity thinking. But God also sees hope. In communities around the world, humans are experimenting with alternative economic models. They're creating cooperatives, implementing universal basic income trials, exploring gift economies, and building sharing networks. Some are measuring success not just by profit, but by social and environmental impact. God sees these as green shoots of evolution, signs that humanity might be ready to mature beyond its current economic adolescence. God also notices how art, culture, and spirituality often push back against the tyranny of money. Musicians, poets, and philosophers remind humanity of values that cannot be bought or sold. Acts of generosity and kindness ripple through societies as reminders that humans are more than economic units. To God, these moments of selflessness appear like sparks of light, proof that another path is possible if only humans learn to trust it. From this higher vantage point, God reflects on how deeply money has shaped not only economies, but also identities. Careers define self-worth, bank balances determine confidence, and consumer goods act as symbols of belonging. Yet God sees through this illusion, recognizing that true worth lies not in accumulation, but in contribution, creativity, and connection. The tragedy is not that humans lack value, but that they mismeasure it. This divine perspective also perceives the heavy cost humanity pays for its obsession with endless growth. Forests fall, oceans fill with plastic, species vanish, all sacrificed for profit margins and quarterly reports. God knows that no economy can thrive on a dying planet. Yet humans gamble with their only home as if it were expendable. To God, this is not just short-sighted, it is existentially reckless. Still, God sees the seeds of transformation hidden in crisis. Economic collapses, climate disasters, and social unrest all serve as wake-up calls, forcing humanity to question the systems they once believed unshakable. Some will cling tighter to the old ways, but others will innovate, planting the beginnings of a more sustainable and compassionate order. From the cosmic view, evolution often arises from breakdowns as much as from breakthroughs. And so God wonders what might happen if humanity truly understood the illusion of money. If they could see beyond the numbers on a screen and realize that the real wealth of a civilization is not its currency, but its people, its ecosystems, and its collective wisdom. Would they still chase infinite growth on a finite planet? Or would they finally embrace balance, cooperation, and stewardship as the truest forms of prosperity? God also contemplates the future that awaits if humanity does not shift course. A world where inequality deepens, where environmental collapse accelerates, and where societies fracture under the weight of their own greed. Yet even in this darker vision, God senses a spark of possibility. For humans, unlike any other species, can imagine new realities into existence. That imagination, if harnessed, could become their salvation. This divine perspective reveals that the choice is entirely in human hands. They could design systems that ensure everyone's basic needs are met while still rewarding innovation and effort. They could measure progress by well-being rather than just wealth accumulation. They could remember that an economy should serve humanity, not the other way around. From this cosmic viewpoint, the current moment appears to be a crossroads. Humans have the technology, resources, and knowledge to create abundance for all. The only question is whether they'll choose cooperation over competition, wisdom over greed, and long-term sustainability over short-term profit. God sees that money, from its truest perspective, is neither good nor evil. It's energy, a tool for organizing human cooperation and directing resources toward shared goals. The question isn't whether to have money, but how to structure systems so that this energy flows toward healing rather than harm, toward inclusion rather than exclusion, toward the flourishing of all life rather than the accumulation of a few. Perhaps, from this eternal vantage point, the most astonishing realization is that money itself has no intrinsic value. It is humanity's collective belief that gives it power. If humans can agree that mere numbers on a screen can determine who eats and who starves, then surely they also have the capacity to agree on new stories. Stories where dignity is not conditional, where cooperation replaces exploitation, and where wealth is measured in thriving communities and living ecosystems. God sees that the same imagination that created money could just as easily create a system where abundance is shared, where progress honors both people and planet, and where humanity finally learns that the greatest currency is not profit, but compassion. What would change if humans could see their economic systems from this divine perspective? Perhaps they would remember that they are not separate individuals competing for scarce resources, but interconnected beings sharing one planet. Perhaps they would design systems that reflect this truth. If this perspective resonates with you, consider sharing this video with others who might benefit from this broader view. Like this content if it challenged your thinking, and subscribe for more explorations into life's biggest questions from angles you might not have considered before.